They forced her to wear a torn uniform, locked her in the locker room, dragged her onto the football field to be their joke, called her Cinderella of the turf, laughed, demanded to see her eat dirt in front of the entire town. They called her a walking punching bag, a charity case wearing a jersey. No one knew. She would steal the ball, blast through them like lightning, knock out every player in her way, and score the most historic touchdown Valamont had ever seen. She would do it, without flinching, without blinking, without mercy. Valamont High School's football field was a crucible of glory and cruelty, its bleachers overflowing with the fevered pulse of Valamont, Texas, their roars a hymn to a football dynasty that had never tasted defeat. The turf, a pristine emerald under the floodlights' searing glare, was holy ground, etched with the sweat and pride of a town where football wasn't a game but a sacred covenant. Its players anointed its victories. Scripture. The annual Boys versus Girls football show was no act of charity. It was a public execution, a spectacle where girls were paraded for the crowd's scorn, their stumbles a ritual sacrifice to the town's unyielding ego. The air was heavy with diesel fumes from tailgates, popcorn grease, and the acrid tang of sweat, the scoreboard glowing like a false god, the local media's cameras prowling their lenses ravenous for humiliation. The stands heaved with banners. Valamont Vipers forever, crush the charity case, their colors bleeding under the flickering lights. Into this arena stepped Clara Bloom, 18, her 5'2", 121-pound frame dwarfed by the field's vastness, her faded sweatshirt threadbare, her running shoes scuffed to the sole. Her dark hair scraped into a messy ponytail, her brown eyes steady as steel under the floodlights' assault. Her jersey torn and stained hung loose, its number smudged its fabric, a mockery of the team's pristine gear, her presence a spark in the field's electric haze. A girl marked for slaughter before her shoes grazed the turf. The torment ignited in the locker room, its concrete walls a prison, the fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of wasps. The girls' team, their ponytails glossy, their uniforms tailored, circled Clara like hyenas, their laughter a jagged blade. "You're not here to play, bumpkin. You're here to flop," sneered Jessica Hale, the cheer captain, her lip gloss, a slash of malice, her manicured nails slamming the storage closet door as her squad shoved Clara inside, their giggles piercing. They flung her a jersey, its fabric rancid with mildew, its seams splitting its stains, a chronicle of forgotten failures. "Put it on Cinderella. Let's bet how fast you eat dirt," Jessica taunted, her phone flashing as she live-streamed, her voice a lash across the concrete. "Cinderella football, place your bets on her faceplant." The girls chanted, their sneakers squealing, their eyes raking Clara's scuffed shoes, her lack of polish a punchline in their polished world. A rival cheerleader, her earrings glinting, leaned in her voice, a hiss. "You're a walking joke. Nobody wants a hick on our turf," she said, implying Clara's rural roots were a stain on Valamont's legacy. Clara's fingers gripped the jersey, her ponytail tightening with a slow, deliberate tug, her silence a fortress, her brown eyes unyielding under the buzzing lights. The crowd's roars seeped through the walls, their cheers a prelude to her public crucifixion, the media's cameras waiting beyond. The audience's rage surged, Jessica's cruelty a wound, the cheerleaders' taunt, a call for Clara's power to shatter their ritual. The field was a gladiatorial pit, its turf a canvas for Clara's disgrace, the bleachers a howling tribunal. As Clara emerged from the tunnel, her torn jersey flapping her shoes, scuffing the grass, Brad Monroe, the team captain and mayor's son, his jersey gleaming like armor, his blonde hair a crown, strode forward, his voice a thunderclap over the crowd's cheers. "Well, well, the country bumpkin thinks she can play ball," he mocked, his smirk, a blade implying her presence was a mockery of the game. "Hope you know football isn't a punching bag, little girl." The stands erupted, their banners waving, their laughter a tidal wave. The hashtag Cinderella crash hissed in the crowd. Head coach Harlan Voss, his whistle a silver talisman, tossed a dented helmet at her feet, its straps frayed, its shell scratched. "You're lucky, Bloom. You're our live-action mascot today. Don't scuff my new turf," he growled, his clipboard gleaming, suggesting her role was to amuse, not compete. The boys' team snickered, their cleats polished, their eyes dissecting her faded sweatshirt, her isolation a public spectacle. Assistant coach Lyle Trent, his cap tilted, joined in his voice a sneer. "She's here for the pity points. Let's give the crowd a show," he said, implying her effort was a charity stunt. Clara's fingers adjusted her ponytail, a subtle twist that hinted at her discipline, her silence a shield, her brown eyes steady under the floodlight's glare. The audience's fury burned Brad's taunt a wound. Voss's scorn a call for Clara's strength to upend their altar. As Clara stepped onto the turf, her torn jersey flapping under the floodlight's glare, the equipment manager, his clipboard clutched tightly, smirked from the sidelines, his voice cutting through the crowd's chants. "She's wearing a rigged helmet. Let's see how long it holds," he shouted, revealing he'd tampered with her gear to ensure it would fail, painting her as a fragile liability destined to collapse. "This bumpkin's no athlete, she'll crack before halftime." The crowd roared their banners, waving their cheers, spiking with hashed broken bloom, their eyes dissecting her scuffed shoes, her stained jersey a symbol of defeat. A booster nodded the manager's sabotage, a public indictment her safety mocked. Clara's fingers brushed dirt off her shoes, a slow, deliberate motion that hinted at her unyielding composure, her silence a shield against the betrayal. The media's cameras zoomed the crowd's laughter, a chorus, amplifying her vulnerability. The audience's rage surged the manager's dirty tactic, a wound his arrogance, a call for Clara's power to shatter the field's lies. The setup was a death sentence. The referee, his stripes crisp, his whistle gleaming, signaling the girls to line up, his smirk sly as a fox. "Safety, Bloom. Good luck surviving," he said, shoving her into the position where she'd face the biggest players alone, his tone dripping with the certainty of her destruction. The boys' team, their jerseys, a wall of arrogance, deliberately left her exposed, their laughter spiking as the quarterback snapped the ball. The crowd chanted, "Faceplant, Cinderella, faceplant." Their voices a battering ram, their banners mocking her scuffed shoes, her slight frame a bullseye. A linebacker, his shoulders a fortress, charged his cleats, gouging the turf, his tackle slamming Clara to the ground. The impact a gunshot, the stands roaring with glee. Jessica from the sidelines shrieked. "That's one" for the highlight reel, her phone flashing her glee a venomous dart. A school board member, his suit pressed, leaned toward a booster, his voice booming. "She's a nobody here to make us laugh," he said, pointing at Clara's torn jersey, his chuckle a blade, implying her presence was a jest. Clara rose. Her jersey ripped her ponytail, fraying her silence, a storm gathering her brown eyes cold as iron. The audience's rage peaked. The referee's bias, a wound, the board member's taunt, a call for Clara's power to silence their jeers. As Clara lined up for the first play, her shoes scuffing the turf, the school counselor. Her glasses glinting stood near the bleachers, her voice booming over the crowd's jeers. This girl faked her way onto the team she cheated to get here, she accused, implying Clara had lied about her eligibility to paint her as a fraud, unfit for Valamont's sacred game. She's no player, just a schemer riding her father's dead name. The crowd gasped their soda cups, pausing mid-sip, their cheers spiking with # cheater Clara, their banners mocking her faded sweatshirt, her presence a scandal in their minds. A reporter nodded the counselor's words, a public verdict her integrity mocked. Clara's fingers retied her ponytail, a subtle tug that hinted at her suppressed strength, her silence a fortress against the slander. The media scribbled the crowd's amusement a tidal wave her honesty mocked. The audience's fury burned the counselor's false accusation, a wound her judgment, a call for Clara's power to prove her worth beyond their lies. The first half was a relentless gauntlet, each play a fresh circle of hell, the scoreboard ticking against the girls. The boys' lead a towering monument to their dominance. Clara was a marked target, her safety role a trap rigged for her ruin the boys' plays, engineered to crush her. Their tackles bone-rattling, their laughter a whip. A tight end, his grin a crescent of cruelty, spat on her jersey after a play, his voice a low growl. "Stay down, bumpkin. Nobody wants you here," he said, implying her effort was a delusion unfit for Valamont's sacred turf. The crowd cheered. Their soda cups raised their amusement a chorus that drowned the floodlights' hum. Coach Voss forced her to fetch balls after every play, his whistle a lash across the field. "Move, Bloom, mascot duty." He barked his clipboard, a scepter suggesting her place was servitude, not sport. The media's cameras zoomed their lenses, feasting on her stained jersey, her scuffed shoes, the hashtag turf trash slithering through the stands. A team manager, his headset gleaming, leaned toward a trainer, his voice sharp. "She's a liability. Should have stayed in the sticks," he said, implying her rural roots disqualified her from the game. Clara's fingers steadied her helmet, a slow, deliberate motion that hinted at her unyielding resolve, her silence, a fortress, her brown eyes unmoved. The audience's fury surged, the tight end's cruelty, a wound, the manager's scorn, a call for Clara's legacy to torch their field. As Clara rose from a brutal tackle, her jersey torn under the floodlights, the Booster Club president, his tie knotted tightly, addressed the stands, his voice echoing through the diesel-soaked air. "Her father was a washed-up drunk. His scandal's why she's here begging for scraps," he sneered, mocking Daniel Bloom's downfall to imply Clara's presence was a desperate attempt to redeem a tainted legacy. "She's no Bloom, just a leech chasing a ghost." The crowd erupted, their cheers spiking with "Chard scandal," spawned their banners waving their laughter a chorus. Clara's fingers steadied her helmet, a slow, deliberate gesture that hinted at her quiet resolve amidst the slander, her silence a shield. The media's cameras zoomed the crowd's amusement, a tidal wave, her heritage mocked. The audience's rage piqued the president's taunt, a wound his influence, a call for Clara's power to silence the field's hypocrisy. The torment sharpened as the first quarter bled into the second, the crowd's cheers, a hymn to Clara's defeat, the scoreboard, a glaring indictment. A teammate, her ponytail bouncing, tripped Clara during a huddle, her voice a venomous hiss. "You're dragging us down. Quit before you embarrass us more," she said, implying Clara's presence was a stain on the girls' team. The stands snickered, their banners waving their laughter, a dagger that pierced the diesel-soaked air. A local sports anchor, his mic clipped, leaned toward a cameraman, his voice loud enough for the bleachers to carry it. "This girl's a charity case here for the sob story, not the score," he said, pointing at Clara's torn jersey, his chuckle a blade, suggesting her effort was a publicity stunt. The media scribbled the crowd's amusement a tidal wave, her determination mocked as a fool's errand. Assistant coach Trent orchestrated a play to humiliate her, signaling a fake handoff that left Clara alone against a charging defensive end, his tackle a thunderclap, the crowd's cheers spiking. "That's how you bury a nobody," Trent shouted, his cap tilted, his glee a public verdict. Clara's fingers tightened her ponytail, a subtle tug that hinted at her laser focus, her silence a shield, her brown eyes steady as granite. The audience's rage burned the teammate's sabotage, a wound the anchor's taunt, a call for Clara's power to prove them wrong. As Clara scrambled for a loose ball, her shoes slipping on the turf, the rival team captain, his wristbands gleaming, rallied the boys' team, his voice a bellow that incited the stands. "Let's make her quit. Chant, Cinderella crumbles," he commanded, orchestrating a crowd-wide chant to break her spirit, painting her as a fragile outsider unfit for Valamont's elite. "She's got no guts. Watch her run crying." The crowd complied, their voices a battering ram, their cheers spiking with "Mashgat, crumble Clara," their banners mocking her frayed ponytail, her effort a spectacle of failure. A trainer nodded the captain's tactic, a public execution, her endurance mocked. Clara's fingers brushed her jersey, a deliberate twist that hinted at her unshaken discipline, her silence a fortress against the mob. The media's cameras zoomed the crowd's chant a chorus, her resolve mocked. The audience's fury burned the captain's dirty tactic, a wound, his bravado a call for Clara's power to crush their game. The cruelty peaked as halftime loomed the field, a crucible of sweat and screams, the floodlights casting jagged shadows across the turf. A cornerback, his cleats gleaming like daggers, shoved Clara after a play, his voice a snarl that cut through the crowd's chants. "You're not a player, you're a prop for our highlight reel," he said, implying her role was a punchline in Valamont's storied legacy. The stands roared their cheers, spiking their eyes, dissecting her scuffed shoes, her slight frame a target painted in neon. Jessica from the sidelines screamed, "Keep eating dirt, Cinderella," her phone flashing her glee, a venom that poisoned the air. The crowd's chants of faceplant swelled their banners, a forest of mockery. Clara's resilience a joke to be crushed. A rival cheerleader, her earrings sparkling, leaned toward Jessica, her voice a hiss. "Her dad was a disgrace, guess failure runs in the family," she said, mocking Clara's father's scandal, implying her blood was tainted. The media zoomed their lenses, capturing her dirt-smeared jersey, her frayed ponytail, the hashtag Bloombust whispered in the stands. Clara's fingers brushed her jersey, a slow, deliberate gesture that hinted at her suppressed fire, her silence a strategy, her brown eyes cold as a winter storm. The audience's rage piqued the cornerback's shove, a wound the cheerleader's taunt, a call for Clara's power to shatter their illusions. As Clara stood for the second half, her jersey soaked under the floodlights, a local reporter, his microphone clipped, faced the stands, his voice sharp and calculated. "Clara Bloom's a danger on this field. She's untrained and out of her depth," he declared, spinning a false narrative of incompetence to paint her as a reckless amateur, unfit for Valamont's game. "She's a liability who'll ruin the show." The crowd roared their cheers, spiking with clumsy Clara. Their soda cups raised their laughter, a dagger. Clara's finger steadied her shoelaces, a slow, deliberate motion that hinted at her suppressed fire, her silence, a strategy against the lies. The media nodded the crowd's amusement a chorus, her potential mocked. The audience's rage piqued the reporter's false narrative, a wound his ambition, a call for Clara's power to prove her skill beyond their prejudice. Halftime was a brief reprieve, the field silent, but the stands buzzing, the crowd's anticipation, a fever pitch, their banners waving like war flags. The girls' team huddled their eyes, avoiding Clara, their whispers sharp. "She's making us look weak," one muttered, implying her endurance was a liability. The boys' team lounged their laughter a chorus, Brad tossing a ball and sneering, "Let's make her cry in the second half." The media circled their cameras hungry, a reporter muttering, "She's the story, Valamont's favorite punching bag." Clara stood alone, her torn jersey soaked, her shoes caked with dirt, her ponytail loose but retied with surgical precision, her silence a vow, her brown eyes scanning the turf like a general before battle. The audience's fury simmered, the team's disdain. A wound, the reporter's words, a call for Clara's triumph to silence their field. The second half ignited the field, a furnace, the floodlights buzzing the crowd's chants, a relentless mantra of mockery. Clara was battered, each play a public execution, the boys' plays a calculated assault, their tackles seismic, their laughter a whip that lashed the turf. A defensive tackle, his bulk a mountain, targeted her. His charge deliberate, his tackle slamming her into the turf, the impact a cannon blast, the stands erupting. "That's how you break a charity case," he roared, his voice a verdict, implying her place was beneath their cleats. Coach Voss signaled a trick play, a staged fumble designed to leave Clara scrambling the ball, rolling just out of reach, the crowd's laughter spiking as she dove and missed her jersey smeared with grass. "Pick it up," mascot Voss bellowed, his whistle a taunt, his clipboard a gavel. The media's lenses zoomed, the hashtag #ClaraClown hissed in the stands, her effort mocked as futility. Clara rose, her fingers steadying her shoelaces, a slow, deliberate motion that hinted at her unbreakable will. Her silence a fortress, her brown eyes cold as steel. The audience's rage surged, the tackle's brutality a wound, Voss's trick, a call for Clara's power to turn their game against them. The torment deepened as the third quarter unfolded, the scoreboard a glaring testament to the boys' dominance, the crowd's chants a hymn to Clara's defeat. A wide receiver, his speed a blur, tripped her during a play, his voice a sneer. "Stay out of our way, Hick. You're not built for this," he said, implying her rural roots made her unfit for Valamont's elite. The stands roared their cheers, spiking their banners, mocking her scuffed shoes, her slight frame a target. Assistant coach Trent leaned toward the referee, his voice loud. "Let's run her into the ground, nobody'll miss her," he said, orchestrating a penalty play that pinned Clara against two linemen, their tackles a coordinated assault, the crowd's cheers a tidal wave. The school board member, his suit gleaming, shouted to the booster, "She's a disgrace to our legacy, let's end her," implying her presence soiled Valamont's pride. The media scribbled their cameras, capturing her dirt-caked jersey, her frayed ponytail, her resilience a joke to be crushed. Clara's fingers retied her ponytail, a deliberate twist that hinted at her suppressed fire, her silence a strategy, her brown eyes steady as a blade. The audience's rage piqued the receiver's trip, a wound, the board members' scorn, a call for Clara's power to rewrite their history. The turning point erupted in the third quarter's final minutes, the field a chaos of sweat, screams, and shattered egos, the scoreboard ticking the boys' lead a fortress of arrogance. A play imploded. The quarterback fumbling the ball, spinning on the turf like a taunt, the crowd's cheers faltering, the media's cameras zooming with predatory focus. Clara moved like a phantom, her scuffed shoes a blur, her slight frame a lightning bolt, her brown eyes locked on the leather prize. She snatched the ball, her grip iron. Her body surging forward, the stadium plunging into a deafening silence, only the rhythmic thud of her shoes echoing across the turf. For 15 seconds, time was hers, the floodlights, her crown, the turf, her kingdom. She carved through 7 players, her angles, textbook, her speed, a specter, her training, a secret forged in years of unseen drills. She dodged a charging linebacker, her cut sharp as a scalpel, his bulk crashing into the turf, the crowd gasping. A perfect stiff arm sent Brad Monroe flying, his jersey soiled, his pride obliterated as he slammed into the sidelines, his blonde hair matted the stands, stunned. A flawless spin move made 2 defenders collide, their helmets clanging like a death knell, their egos shattered. Clara dove into the end zone, her body a comet, her touchdown a masterpiece, the ball spiking the turf with a crack, the scoreboard flashing in surrender. The stadium was a crypt, only heavy breaths and the hum of floodlights heard, the media's cameras frozen, the crowd's banners limp as rags. Clara stood, her torn jersey a banner of defiance, her ponytail loose, her brown eyes steel cold, her silence a gavel that judged the field. The audience's triumph roared Clara's touchdown, a thunderbolt. Her restraint a blade that sliced through Valamont's arrogance, a moment that shattered their ritual. The aftermath was a reckoning, the field, a graveyard of hubris, the floodlights flickering like dying stars, the scoreboard a monument to Clara's conquest. She tore off her dented helmet, her dark hair spilling like a warrior's mantle, her brown eyes sweeping the silent bleachers, her voice low and lethal as she seized the referee's mic. "My name is Clara Bloom, daughter of Daniel Bloom, Super Bowl MVP 2005. I never spoke because I don't need my father's name to bury you," she said, her tone ice, her shoes steady on the scarred turf, the crowd frozen, their breaths trapped in their throats. "You built this game to break me, but you broke yourselves. Valamont's pride is a lie, and today I exposed it." The Jumbotron flared a video rolling its grainy footage, a revelation, a younger Clara, a U16 national athlete shattering the state speed record, her form a symphony of power. Clara training in a deserted field, her father's voice coaching her through drills. Clara vanishing after his scandal, her legacy buried by shame. The bleachers gasped, the media's cameras zooming, the hashtag had Bloom legend whispered in awe, the crowd's banners forgotten. Clara's heritage was undeniable, her torn jersey, a crown, her scuffed shoes, a scepter, her silence a verdict that gutted Valamont's toxic heart. The audience reveled in the triumph, Clara's reveal a sledgehammer, her legacy, a fire that incinerated their mockery, her restraint a symphony of domination. As the Jumbotron's video faded, Nathan Reed, Clara's husband, and a former NFL agent tied to Daniel Bloom stepped onto the sidelines, his suit crisp, his voice commanding as he signaled the media, his presence a shockwave through the silent stands. "Broadcast this truth. Valamont's game is a sham," he declared, orchestrating a live exposé with chilling precision, his authority amplifying Clara's triumph. The crowd's whispers turned to panic, their eyes on the cameras, their banners forgotten as a journalist shouted, "This is national." Her voice a testament to Nathan's reach. Clara's touchdown was undeniable, her torn jersey a banner, her brown eyes a storm, her silence a verdict that exposed the field's cruelty. The media swarmed the crowd's cheers, fading Nathan's power, a fire that burned through their illusions. The audience felt a surge of triumph, Nathan's media orchestration a testament to Clara's dominance, a blade that cut through the field's hypocrisy, affirming her victory before the fallout. The fallout was cataclysmic. The field a battlefield strewn with the wreckage of Valamont's pride, the floodlights casting long shadows on the defeated. Coach Voss stood paralyzed, his whistle dull as the principal stormed the sidelines, his voice a guillotine. "You're fired. Harlan, you turned our game into a disgrace," he said, his words a verdict on Voss's cruelty. The crowd's whispers turning against him, his clipboard a relic of failure. Brad Monroe, his jersey smeared with dirt, his scholarship revoked, stood silent, his blonde hair matted the media, documenting his bullying, his captaincy. A ghost. Jessica Hale, her phone dark, her live stream exposed as a scandal, stood frozen. Her lip gloss, dull. The crowd shunning her her cheer status erased. Assistant coach Trent, his cap askew, was banned from coaching, a board member's voice cold. "Your plays shamed us, you're out." The tight end who'd spat on her stood silent, his grin gone, his taunt a mistake that cost him his spot, his teammates turning away. The teammate who'd tripped her stood frozen, her ponytail limp, her sabotage a wound that marked her as an outcast, her role terminated. The school board member, his suit wilted, faced resignation demands, his taunt a mistake that cost him his influence, the boosters abandoning him. The team manager, his headset useless, stood silent, his scorn a regret that ended his job, his authority nullified. The sports anchor, his mic unclipped, muttered apologies, his taunt a mistake that tarnished his career, the media turning on him. The rival cheerleader, her earrings dull-faced expulsion, her taunt about Clara's father, a wound that erased her clout, her peers ignoring her. The audience felt a surge of justice. Each antagonist's cruelty repaid their egos, obliterated by Clara's silence, a triumph that echoed every wound they'd inflicted. As Clara's speech echoed, Nathan Reed strode to the school board's box, his eyes locked on the president who'd mocked her father, his voice a blade that silenced the stands. "Your lies about Daniel Bloom's daughter end. Now resign or face a lawsuit that'll bankrupt this town." He demanded, his authority as a former NFL agent, a hammer that shattered their influence, amplifying Clara's triumph. The crowd's gasps turned to whispers, their eyes wide, their soda cups forgotten, as a booster muttered, "He's untouchable," his voice a hymn to Nathan's power. Clara's legacy was undeniable, her torn jersey a crown, her silence a gavel that judged the field's elite. The board member stammered, the crowd's cheers for Clara surging Nathan's confrontation, a fire that burned through their corruption. The audience reveled in the triumph, Nathan's confrontation, a testament to Clara's dominance, a blade that cut through the field's lies, affirming her power before the accounts froze. As Nathan's media command took hold, the equipment manager who'd rigged Clara's helmet stood frozen, his clipboard slipping, the crowd's whispers turning against him, their eyes judging his headset now a symbol of shame. A principal approached, his voice cold. "Your sabotage cost you your job. Leave the field." His words a verdict on the manager's malice. Clara's touchdown had exposed his treachery, her power a mirror reflecting his disgrace, her silence a gavel that silenced his career. The crowd ignored him, their cheers for Clara, her authority rewriting his narrative, her torn jersey a symbol of victory. The media noted his ruin, his clipboard worthless, his sabotage erased. The audience felt a thrill, the manager's public disgrace, a testament to Clara's dominance, his dirty tactic repaid with ruin, a justice that echoed every lie he'd spread. The school counselor who'd accused Clara of cheating clutched her glasses as the crowd's murmurs praised Clara, their cheers for her touchdown drowning her voice. A superintendent approached, his tone icy. "Your false accusations end your tenure. You're terminated," his words, a verdict on her betrayal, her face crumbling, her glasses slipping. Clara's power had exposed her lies, her touchdown a mirror, reflecting her shame, her silence, a gavel that silenced her influence. The crowd ignored her, their eyes on Clara's presence, her authority erasing her clout, her torn jersey, a symbol of victory. The media broadcast her ruin, her glasses worthless, her accusations erased. The audience reveled in the justice, the counselor's career ruin, a testament to Clara's dominance, her accusation repaid with disgrace, a triumph that resonated with every lie she'd told. The Booster Club president who'd mocked Clara's father stood paralyzed as the crowd's whispers turned to Clara's glory, their cheers for her power drowning his voice. A board member approached, his voice sharp. "Your slander cost you your title. You're out." His words a verdict on the president's influence. Clara's touchdown had exposed his cruelty, her authority, a mirror reflecting his shame, her silence a gavel that silenced his status. The crowd ignored him, their eyes on Clara's presence, her power erasing his role, her torn jersey a symbol of victory. The media noted his fall, his tie loosened, his taunts erased. The audience felt a surge of satisfaction, the president's loss of status a testament to Clara's dominance, his mockery repaid with ruin, a justice that echoed every sneer he'd given. The field was a testament to Clara's precision, its turf scarred by her speed, its scoreboard a shrine to her domination, its floodlights a requiem for Valamont's pride. Clara refused the honorary captain title, her brown eyes cold as permafrost, her torn jersey, a symbol of her independence, her scuffed shoes, a badge of her victory. She walked off the field, her steps silent, her ponytail swaying the crowd, parting like a sea, their whispers trailing her. That's Bloom's daughter. She destroyed them. But Clara didn't glance back, her silence, her throne, her shoes scuffing the turf with the finality of a guillotine. Valemount High became a national scandal. Its football program gutted its funding, slashed its games, boycotted its legacy, condemned under NCAA scrutiny. The clip of Clara's touchdown, her mic speech, and the shaming of the team went viral, its views in the tens of millions, its impact a legend carved in digital stone. Clara transferred schools the next day, her name a beacon for the silenced her legacy, a fire that burned brighter than Valemount's floodlights. Brad Voss, Jessica Trent, and every bully lived in the shadow of their disgrace, their names footnotes in a story they couldn't rewrite. Their jerseys pawned their cheers, silenced their pride, a ruin that would never rise. She didn't yell. She didn't plead. She dismantled their pride, buried their legacy, and left them choking in their own disgrace. If you loved watching the underdog shatter the throne, like, share, comment your favorite knockout. And subscribe for more stories where the bullied burn the castle down.